Hey there, it's Tina here, together with Shadow. Here's my kitty cat Shadow. He had to come in right when I was about to record this video. So you might hear some purring in the background. I've had this conversation come up a couple of times in coaching calls this past week with a few of my clients, and they have been asking about, how do I stop procrastinating? I need to get X done, but I'm just not getting it done, or I seem to leave everything to last minute, or whatever that might be, right? And I find procrastination actually to be a really fascinating subject. Because here's the thing, if we are left to our own devices as human beings, it's hard to get stuff done, right? And if we kind of keep it all within ourselves, the things that we need to get done, then it can be really easy to let things slide. It can be really easy to procrastinate, if you will, and to never get things done, right? First and foremost, when somebody comes to me and will say, I'm trying to get X done, but it's just not happening. My first question is always, okay, is this a should or a want, right? So if you want to do something, let's say write a book, as an example, kind of from a bigger picture perspective, or even something as simple as I need to send my easy note this week. I want to write a blog post to post this week. I need to write a marketing email or something like that, right? First and foremost, whether they're big or small projects, you want to ask yourself, is this a should or a want? Right? Is there a compelling reason for me to do this? Sometimes, especially with some of the bigger projects and stuff that are out there, people will say, for example, yeah, I really want to write a book. Do you really want to write a book? Is there a very compelling reason for it? Have you structured how it fits into the plan of how you're building your business and what it's going to mean for you moving forward and all of that too, right? Or does it just sound like a good idea at the time? If there's no compelling reason to do something, chances are much less likely that you're not going to do it, or much more likely that you're not going to do it, whatever that is. You're probably not going to get it done if you don't have a compelling reason, right? I think for a lot of business owners, we actually end up with a lot of shoulds on our plate. We think that we should do this or we should do that. And, in some cases too, we really should be doing certain things. Yes, you should have an e-zine going out at least twice a month. Ideally weekly. Yes, you want to be active in your marketing activities, all of these things that may feel like a should, but really you need to do them in order for your business to grow, right? So you want to connect with, be able to connect with that bigger picture reason. But I think alongside that too, is there's a couple of other aspects when you find yourself procrastinating on something. There's a couple of other things that come into play that I want to share with you kind of almost as tips, if you will, too. One of my favorite things, I teach about this in a few of my programs, actually. There's something out there called Parkinsons Law. And you may or may not have heard of it before. It's kind of like Murphy's Law, if you will. I don't think it's, it's not in the legal system per se. It's a little bit more of a theory, if you will. But you can check it out if you search for it. You'll find it on Wikipedia and such. There's a guy named Parkinson, is his last name. I can't remember his first name offhand. That has this theory that I know has been true for me and so many of my clients, that will basically say, work will expand to fit the time that you allow it. So there's a couple of aspects that come into play on how this might affect your business and life, but in particular when it applies to getting things done. For you and or a team member or whomever, basically part of what that means is that you have to put a deadline on things in order to get them done, right? So first and foremost, work will expand to fit the time that you allow it. If you do not put a deadline on something, that means it will expand ad infinitum, if that's a word, right? Where there is no end to it, right? So you will never get it done because you've never put a deadline on it. It will expand, expand, expand. This is a common thing too, if and where, not only for yourself, but issues with a team member. Oh my gosh, they're never getting X done. Well, did you give them a deadline that they had to get it done by? We all need deadlines, right? We all need deadlines. The other side of this too that I find quite fascinating as well is that when we know about Parkinson's Law and when we understand what it means, chances are that you will wait until I'm not going to say last minute, right? But you will wait towards the end of when something is due before you're going to do it. So this was one of the discussions I had with a client last week too, where it's kind of like, I wish I could get things done ahead of time. I wish I was more proactive. I wish I was more on top of things. I wish I would get things done like a week ahead of time. And really, my response to her was like, why? Why does that matter? As long as you're getting it done by the time that it's due, don't try to or don't feel like you have to get things done way ahead of time. This used to be a stick, essentially, guys, that I would beat myself with from time to time, right? Was, oh, I wish I could get all my e-zine posts written, 3 months in advance, right? in a perfect world, sure, I think we'd all probably like that. But you know what, in reality, for me at least, I'm doing my videos or writing my articles or whatever it is, usually the day before my e-zine goes out. You know, that's what works for me because it's due that day, right? It's due, it has to be done because it's going to go out the next day, right? You know, for a lot of people too, I mean, this is just the reality of it. The things that need to get done, so long as you're not going overboard with it and to the point where you're so last minute that it's causing chaos and it's causing a crisis and you're pulling an all-nighter and all of that, right? I mean, that's not healthy. But as long as you're in a place where you know something needs to be done by a certain date and time and you get it done by that date and time, you're actually in a good place, if that makes sense. You know, don't try to beat yourself up too much around the perspective of, you know, well, I should have got it done a week ago. If you needed it done by today, and as long as it's done by today, who cares whether or not you started a week ago? You know what I mean? And this is something I know to be true. I've really come to accept that about myself. I will get things done when they need to be done. And sometimes that means it might be a little cutting it close, if you will, but you better believe I will get it done. And I've kind of given up on the fact, if you will, of trying to get things done way ahead of time, you know, because it's just not going to work. They're not due yet then, right? The work has expanded to fit the time that I've given it. The other side of this too is that I want you to take a look at your environment and the expectations around you. Because another piece of when people are procrastinating is, you know, again, if we're left to our own devices, you know, it's pretty easy to let ourselves down, if you will. If I've only promised to myself that I'm going to get something done and whatever comes up, or I just don't feel like it or something like that, it's pretty easy to let myself down. You know, there's nobody around me. I haven't set anything up around me to expect it from me, right? So I want you to look at how you can structure your environment. This is especially important when there's things that you really theoretically don't want to do or don't feel like doing. You know, for a lot of people, this might be your e-zine, or it could be some other marketing activities, or it could just be who knows what for you, right? Set up your environment around you so that people are expecting stuff from you. Because when other people expect things from you, and when you've made a promise to someone that you're going to get something done, it is much more likely that you're going to make it happen, right? So again, even with my e-zine, Marky, my awesome VA gal who's worked with me for years and who sends out our e-zine every week, you know, she expects for me to get her an e-zine draft every week. So because I know I owe it to her, I will get it done for her. Right? You know, I've essentially set up that environment, if you will. I've set up that expectation around me for that to be the case. Even with other projects too, you know, if you really want to write a book and you really want to make a book happen, set up some expectations out there around it. Set up a book launch party. Start talking about it in your e-zine. Start telling people that you're going to have your book come out, say, in the fall, or whatever that is. You know, partner up and maybe build some other programs or build some other things around it. You know, these are all expectations, if you will, around you that can draw you forward in this process, right? You know, when you've told everybody and you've set things up and you've built programs around it and so on. You know, I also think this is a reason where some people will go with a traditional book publisher versus, hang on, Mr. Noisy. Hey, Mr. Noisy. He came to visit again. You know, if you're going to write a book, and you know that you're just not going to get it done yourself. You know, you really need that structure. If you go with a traditional book publisher, get a book deal, you better believe you'll get that book done when your publisher wants it done because you've made that agreement. You know, compared to the self-publishing route. I know of people who have been working on their books for years now that have gone the self-publishing route, right? Because there's nobody around them that's expecting it, that's requiring, that's demanding, if you will, that it gets done. So that's another interesting aspect of this too that I want to invite you to consider. You know, what can you set up around you? What expectations based on other people or situations or whatever that might be? What can you put in place around you in order to kind of require that you get things done? This helps pull you forward in areas where you may not be accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. So again, Parkinsons Law. Setting expectations, two really powerful things in this journey of getting stuff done. And really, from time to time, we're all going to procrastinate. I really do think that's human nature. Some of us maybe more so than others, but really, as long as you get it done when it needs to be done at the end of the day, that's really the bottom line here. That's really what counts. So until next time, bye everybody. Bye from Shadow, Mr. Noisy as well. Take care, everyone. Bye.